Lordtocs is showing us. Oh no! I'm sorry, Tox. I didn't mean. I mean,
That's all right. Well, we're gonna make, hopefully, some choux. I'm gonna start preheating the oven. This particular one is half milk, half water, even parts, 125 grams each. So we got our 250 grams total liquid in here, and then we've got 1 stick of butter, which is 113 grams. We're just gonna chuck that into, ooh, well, we're splashing, but you know, life be like that. And we want to melt all of that and get it boiling, because turn it on and boost the temp. Because we're going to take all of our flour that I have measured out here. This is 138 grams of flour, roughly 1 cup. Salt, 2 grams of salt. I don't know, that's like a quarter teaspoon probably. And then this is 6 grams of sugar. Go to put those into because we want them to dissolve. One is once it boils, you want to throw all of your flour in. You don't want to add a little bit and then stir it. You just chuck it all in there. Because what's going to happen is we want our flour to gelatinize. So flour has a bunch of like glucose strands called amylose in it. They're like these weird curly Q structures. And when it's like this, in its powdered form like a normal, there's like semi-crystalline, I think is the technical term for it, where they're like bonded to each other. And at like 60 degrees Celsius, the bonds between them, the little curly Q chains, they all break apart and they start bonding to the water in there. And so all this flour is going to swell up like crazy, and it's going to like turn into a paste. And so we want that to happen, and it's going to hold onto the liquid, and then that liquid is what's going to give it a bunch of puff in the oven because it has all that water to boil and steam and puff up. It's boiling, it's ready. So I'm going to turn the heat down just a smidge. And then, like I said in the pro tip, throw all of your flour in all at once. Just go in with it. Don't even worry about it. And stir. You want to stir because those starch granules are going to swell up and you want to break them apart. And it's going to be weird and chunky, and it should, hopefully, if I've got all my measurements right, turn into a paste. We just keep going, keep stirring, no one panic. Turn the heat down just a little. And you see you want to stir a lot because there'll be little pockets of like flour, I'm sure you've seen. You just want to keep going. And then it's going to turn kind of smooth like this, and you're going to be tempted to take it off there. You're going to be like, I did it, it's a paste. But that's not so pro tip number 2 is you keep cooking. After you get it here, you go for like another 2 minutes. And that's going to drive off a little water.
Tox. What kind of flour did you use?
Oh, this was bread flour. Sorry. I'm using the King Arthur bread flour.
Okay.
I've also seen various different thoughts on this. I've seen some say soft flour, which I think, doesn't that mean like cake flour? I'm not sure.
Yeah, or pastry
but I've
flour.
also, yeah. And then I've seen some just use all-purpose, and a bunch of recipes use bread flour. I have tried with all-purpose and didn't notice a huge difference in my results when I was trying to get like the perfect non-cracked eclair. And you get this like film on the bottom, and that's normal, and you shouldn't be worried about it. And that's kind of when you know you're done, is when you got that film like everywhere, and you know you've sufficiently cooked for an extra minute or 2. And when you're done with that, I like to go straight into my mixing bowl because it's metal, and we need to cool this off because our next step is to add some eggs, and you obviously don't want your eggs to cook, so you got to cool this down. So I just add it all, straight into the mixing bowl. What you can do to help it cool down is kind of just like press it up against all the sides, and then it will release a little bit more moisture, which if it's uncomfortable to touch, it's probably not good for the egg. I think we're sufficiently cool enough that we can start adding eggs to this thing. Anyway, we're going to throw our first egg in. Egg number 1 of potentially 5. Be careful with the last egg. Anyway, you just kind of beat it in there, and it's going to look not smooth at all. It's going to be all weird, mashed potato-y kind of situation. You're going to be like, is this working? Is life going to work out? And don't worry, just keep going. Add another egg. Chuck that in. Another egg. Mix it in. Give it a second or two. You can see it's turning a little more dough-like. You know, we're getting there. I'm going to scrape the bottom because there's some unmixed goodies down there. Go ahead. All right, I threw my third egg in there. We're beating it around. It's getting goopy. It's starting to goop. We're achieving goopiness, but not quite. All right, egg number 4.
Great to see this up close. Someone who's done a lot of choux.
See, we're starting to get into like paste territory, right? But this is still way too thick. So it is like a little goopy, but still too thick. I'm going to scrape down the sides just because.
Starting to look pretty good. I see the beak forming.
You can see where we're at now. It's not quite falling off the paddle, but it's still like a little goopy. Yeah, so we have our last egg. I've beat it up into the bowl, and we're just going to add it a little. We want the dough to be soft enough so that when we pull the paddle out, it's like dripping off of there, but it forms like a sheet, and it'll go into like a little V. We're going to splash a little egg in, just a little, just a smidge, and give it another little bit. Give it a mix, give it a wait. It's starting to droop even more. We're getting there. We'll see what we get. So, a little smidge more. Medium peaks. See, it's drooping. We get our thin little beak. You can see it's like paper thin. You can see the light coming through. I'm going to keep it here. I'm happy with this. Piping tips. I use the Ateco 12, which looks like this. You can see it's, you know, not very big opening, but it's a nice tip to have, like if you're not going to buy a full set, because it's also the tip to make macarons with, and it's just like a good general purpose tip if you're going to like fill. I use it for filling the pastries as well, and you know, if you want to pipe something into like a tartlet, something like that. Now, if you're going to do eclairs, you want a French star tip, which is the Ateco 867. And you can see the French star tip has a much finer little ridges, little spikes on them. And the spikes are important because what will happen in the oven is on the edge of the eclair, they have a bunch of spikes, you know, right? And they kind of act like an accordion. So as the inside of the dough expands, the ridges flatten out to allow the eclair to expand along its axis. If you don't have any ridges in it, then it just expands in whichever orientation the dough feels like, and you'll get like football-shaped eclairs. They'll like puff too much in the center, or be like weird on the ends. They're like, you know, weird shapes. So the ridges are important. And I have seen, like Claire does in her video, she pipes without the star tip, and then she takes a fork and she just runs and makes ridges along there.
Can we use a bag without a tip?
For cream puffs, definitely, because the cream puffs are very forgiving in shape. And you can sort of cheat. That's my next tip that I was going to talk about. Let me do this one.
Anybody that's newer to baking, this is like the meta way to fill your bag without all that mess where you basically, yeah, you
I got a
put,
cup underneath here.
yeah, here you go. This is the best way to do it. You can do it in your hand too, as well.
You also don't want any air bubbles. So once you get it in there, notice I've got air bubble down here, and I've got like air bubble on the sides. And so I have a bench scraper, but you can use like a spoon handle or, you know, something round because you don't want to puncture your bag. And you can kind of like, you know, you want to press the air bubbles out. So if I just go like, whoop, you sort of see like a little ghost ring. It's hard to see on camera because of the glare, but let's do a couple of those. Then you have a piping guide, and you don't need like a special weird sheet or whatnot. You just want to go straight down, and you want to squeeze out equally on all sides because that's going to get you, you know, not a lopsided blob. So straight vertical, and then you can just pipe a little blob, and then when it gets to about that diameter, you're done. And if you're like, oh no, it's got the tip, you can just remember water fixes your mistakes. Don't worry about it. Dip your finger in some water, and you can just pat the top down. And you're like, wow, problem solved. I have a sheet of cracklin that we can use. The cracklin also helps guide the shape. So this cracklin's like a little cookie that you can stick on top. And sometimes if you Google like cream puffs, it's like you see like the perfect dome ones, and they have like little crackly stuff on the top. That's what cracklin is. You get a little ring, and then they get to wear them like a little hat. Just like that. So, cracklin, cut your cracklins to the same size that you plan on piping your dough blob. Anywho, for the eclairs, for the cream puffs, we pipe straight up and down. For the eclairs, you want to be at like an angle, and then you don't want your tip to drag on the thing, so you want to hover just a little bit, and then you're gonna like let it drape down, and that's gonna give you a little bit of separation on the sides that you want, and hopefully preserve the star shape. So we're gonna go there, and then just drag, 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 and then you get to the end, release pressure, pull, and then go back a little bit. And I failed that time, but that's all right because we get to fix our mistakes with water. Yay! And you just get back into shape. Shoe, you've taken your knife and you just poke a little hole in the bottom of it, and then you just poke your number 12 tip in there, and then squeeze, and eventually it starts to get a little thick there, coming out the back there. And that's how you know you filled it properly. Shall we slice? Are we ready?
Yes. Oh.
But